Have you ever just looked around and felt like modern life is this giant, frustrating puzzle with a bunch of missing pieces? Well, you're not alone. We are about to dive deep into a truly groundbreaking scientific paper that claims to have found those missing pieces, and trust me, the answer is not at all what you'd expect.
Let's just start with one we've all experienced. Why do we spend so many hours of our lives in meetings that achieve absolutely nothing? You know the ones. The meetings that, let's be honest, could have just been an email.
And then there's this. Why does any interaction with a government agency feel like you've stepped into another dimension where time itself has slowed to a crawl, where your only hope of escape is buried somewhere in Form 27B/6? And finally, the really big one. Why is it that some of our leaders seem, I don't know, a little too smooth, a little too good at dodging a straight answer, almost like they aren't quite human? Well, it turns out these aren't just random annoying things about life. According to a multi-decade observational study, they are all symptoms of the exact same, absolutely astonishing cause.
See, the authors of this paper argue that for years we've been pointing our telescopes to the stars, listening for signals from deep space, but they say we were looking in completely the wrong direction. The evidence, they claim, isn't up there. It's right here, all around us.
So how in the world did they figure this out? It was through a covert 47-year-long investigation that used some, well, let's just call them unconventional, but apparently rigorous scientific methods.
At the heart of the study is a theory they call HIPSO. It stands for Hiding in Plain Sight Optimization. The idea is simple. A truly advanced species wouldn't land a big, flashy spaceship on the White House lawn. No, that's way too obvious. They'd be smarter. They'd integrate quietly, one profession at a time, gaining massive influence while nobody notices a thing.
So how'd they spot these potential non-humans? Well, the researchers compiled a list of key behavioral markers, things that just don't quite align with the human norm. Stuff like a profound, almost allergic reaction to making a firm decision, a total inability to understand sarcasm, and this is the big one, perfect parallel parking skills. Yep, that's a dead giveaway apparently.
So after analyzing almost 1 million subjects who showed these traits, the study came to a conclusion that pretty much rewrites everything we thought we knew about our own society.
18.7 million. That's the number. That is the study's official estimate for how many non-human entities are currently living and working right here on planet Earth.
And they're not all the same, not by a long shot. The researchers actually identified 20 distinct species, each one from a different home planet, with its own unique biology and a very specific career path they've carved out here on Earth.
So who are they? Let's meet a few of the most prominent alien groups hiding right under our noses. First up, the Zephronians. According to the study, they make up 100% of United States presidents. The authors point to what they call definitive proof. The leadership cycle on their home planet perfectly, and I mean perfectly, matches the 4 to 8 year U.S. presidential term. They find that coincidence impossibly convenient. You can spot a Zephronian by their unmistakable traits, a genetic knack for dodging questions, that instinctive hand-waving thing they do during speeches, and a very peculiar difficulty pronouncing the word nuclear. The study even claims that George Washington's wooden teeth were actually an early, glitchy prototype of their biomimicry technology.
Okay, next we have the Formulaians, the species that runs our tax system. They have a fascinating biology. They reproduce through a process the paper calls bureaucratic mitosis. Here's how it works. Step 1. A new tax form is created. Step 2. That form inevitably needs a supplemental form. Step 3. A whole new department has to be formed to process those two forms. And then poof, a brand new Formulaian is spontaneously generated. It really does explain why the IRS just keeps on growing.
Now, it's very important that you don't confuse the Formulaikians with their cousins, the bureaucrats. You'll find them mostly at the DMV. While they both communicate through forms, their motivations are completely different. Bureaucrats are driven by a pure, unadulterated love of paperwork. Formulaikians, according to this research, are biochemically sustained by human suffering. So, a crucial distinction.
And this brings us right back to that first question about pointless meetings. The culprits? Meetingoids. These beings have a physiological need to schedule meetings that could have been emails. The study notes they have a natural PowerPoint generation gland and are biologically allergic to making any decisive action. They are the sole reason middle management exists.
So, what does all this really mean? The implications of this hidden alien workforce are just staggering. It makes us re-examine the very foundations of how our society works.
The study presents some pretty compelling data. For instance, it found a perfect one-to-one correlation between the growth of the Formulakian population and the ever-increasing complexity of the U.S. tax code. The shocking hypothesis? Taxes aren't for funding the government. They are an energy source, harvested from our collective frustration and beamed back to the Formulakian home world.
This whole thing also explains the price the Zephronians pay. You know how presidents always seem to age so dramatically while they're in office? Well, it's not the stress. It's the immense biological strain of having to maintain a human disguise for 4 to 8 years straight. It's just exhausting work.
Knowing that our civilization is secretly being co-managed by 20 different alien species, what do we do about it? Well, the study's recommendation is surprisingly relaxed.
In what might be the most understated sentence in the history of scientific papers, the authors conclude that we should probably just stay calm. I mean, the aliens have been here for centuries, and let's be honest, things aren't demonstrably worse than when humans were the only ones in charge. And that leaves us with the paper's final, lingering thought. Forget about intergalactic diplomacy or planetary defense. The most urgent issue facing humanity today might just be figuring out how to get out of that 3 p.m. meeting this Friday. Something to think about the next time your boss says, let's circle back on that.